Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you, the WFH, for the opportunity to be on this panel today and giving you a bit of a perspective from a mum's point of view with regard to this information that was shared here today. So today I'd like to talk about our own situation, how we were going to make a choice with regards to factor usage. And just to show I've got nothing to declare, I'd like to start off by first talking about our situation as a family that was put before a choice that we could use another product. I'd like to just quickly touch on the situation as it is in South Africa with regards to products available, talk a bit about prophylaxis, what prompted us to change, and then just a short conclusion. So my son, Ruan, was born on the 14th of March 2006 with at that time no known family history of hemophilia. He was a big boy who seemed to be very healthy. He weighed 3.95 kilograms and his APGAR scores was 9 and 10. But 5 days after birth, we were back at the hospital and Ruan was diagnosed with a massive intracranial bleed. He was immediately transferred to a pediatric ICU and placed on a ventilator. And on day 6, he also then received his first blood transfusion. On day 6, we received a diagnosis of severe hemophilia A. Ruan was in the ICU on the ventilator for 7 days, and during this time, he received factor 8 every day. And at that time, we had to use the factor that was available in South Africa, which was a plasma-derived product. So we were in hospital for a total of 10 days. After 10 days, we could finally take our son home. And when we went home, we were informed that Ruan needed to get factor 8 for the next 10 days consecutively. And we also left with an appointment with our nearest hemophilia treatment center. Our first visit to the HTC was a very emotional experience. And we were told there that Ruan had to be placed on prophylaxis for 3 months. So all this mother could see and hear at that time was her son had to have 3 factor 8 infusions 3 times a week for 3 months. So that was where we stood at that time, and we as a family understood we needed this factor 8 to prevent future intracranial bleeds. So at this point, we were not given any choice. We knew this was what we had to do. And if I think back about that time, we were in total shock at the time, so we wouldn't have been able to make a choice were it given to us in any case. At that time in South Africa, as I mentioned, there was only one product available, a plasma-derived factor 8. Thus, within the first 3 months of Ruan's life, he had more than 50 exposure days to plasma-derived factor 8. So initially, we had to go and visit the HTC monthly. And then after we finished the 3 months of prophylaxis, we went on to on-demand treatment. And after 6 months, we only went to visit the HTC every second month. And life started to feel a bit more normal. We felt we can now start coping with everything that's thrown our way. So for the next 6 months, we went every second month. We didn't really have to use any factor at that time because being so young and not really being mobile yet, he only got bruises and no further serious bleeds. So when we went back, when Ruan was about a year, it was quite a shock for us as a family to be told, okay, now we need to have HIV and hepatitis B and C testing done. Suddenly the realizations kicked in that this great product that was given to my son and really saved his life also could be the cause of him getting a transmitted disease. I was then told that the chances of him getting a blood-transmitted disease was very small, and I accepted that. And also we knew that we had to do this annually now, because at that time recombinant products were still not available in South Africa. So just to give you a quick brief of what the situation in South Africa is like currently, the majority of our patients are state patients, and they do not have a choice on what product they can use. Only plasma-derived product is available for state patients due to the cost implications. The factor 8 product that we use in South Africa is of intermediate purity, and thus is useful for von Willebrand's disease as well. The product is really considered very safe, as single donor nucleic acid testing is done on all blood products in South Africa. And since this is being done, there was no cases reported of any HIV or hepatitis infections after the use of blood products. A minority of patients in our country, about 30 to 35%, belong to medical insurance. And these patients could try and get the insurance to pay for recombinant products. But even on medical aid, not all patients are guaranteed that they will be able to use a recombinant product. So a very small number of us actually do use the recombinant product that is available due to the cost implications to the medical insurance. We also only have one recombinant product available for treatment of hemophilia A. And the price in South Africa of a recombinant product is double that of the plasma-derived product. So life went on. Ruan had a number of bleeds, and we got to his 3rd birthday. And at that time, Ruan developed a target joint, his right ankle. And we were informed that we now needed to go on secondary prophylaxis. And once again, no choices at that time. We only had the plasma-derived product available. And this meant annual HIV and hepatitis screening. And being a mom and having the heart of a mom, I recall the anxiousness I felt every year when we had to go and do the testing. It didn't matter how many people told me how safe our product was. I was a mom who just wanted the best for my son, and I was a mom who feared every time that we had to wait for the result. Then at the age of 6 years, when we did our annual testing, Ruan's initial hepatitis C screen came back as positive. I remember everyone telling me, don't worry, we do get false positives. But I do remember the fear I felt and the tears I cried for that time that I had to wait for the test to be repeated and the result received. So after 2 repeat samples, we finally got the test results back, and Ruan did not test positive for hepatitis C, for which we were very thankful. But that also prompted me to talk to our own hematologist at our HTC, because now a recombinant product has become available in South Africa. So I asked our hematologist to please write us a motivation to our medical insurance and try and explain to them that he thinks it's important that our son needs to be placed on a recombinant factor. And now my choice that I had was determined by the fear that I experienced when I thought he tested positive for hepatitis C. Even though, as I said, I was always reassured about the safety of our blood products, I always felt this worry and this anxiousness when the time came for the testing to be done. And as a mother, I did not only fear the hepatitis, the HIV that we were aware of, I had a fear of the unknown viruses that we were not aware of. And that was something that really bothered me a lot. So initially, when we got feedback from our medical aid and they approved that we could now go on to using a recombinant product, I had the small fear that, if I change product, what's the chances of him developing inhibitors just because we're changing a product? I was assured then that the chances then was very small because he was exposed to so much factor during the past 6 years of his life. But also what gave me a bit of just that reassurance was the fact that we were on a good medical insurance. And I knew should it happen that he did develop inhibitors, we would be able to do immune tolerance induction therapy for him. So we started using the recombinant product in January 2013, just before Ruan turned 7. So since 2013, he's had his weekly infusions 3 times per week with his recombinant factor. During this period of time, he only had 1 bleed after he broke a bone in his foot when he fell from the steps. I can just mention, in the time before we did prophylaxis, Ruan had about 30 bleeds in a period between 15 months and 30 months of age. For Ruan, a plus about us using a new product was the fact that at the age of 7, you could now mix his own factor, because as opposed to the plasma product, we can now do needleless mixing, which made it much easier for him to do. And he felt so proud of himself, and he felt he was really getting big now that he can actually have a part in his treatment. And also a plus is having to infuse a much smaller volume than is with regards to the plasma-derived product. So in conclusion, Our choice of product only became available after my son was exposed to more than 300 exposure days on a plasma-derived product. For us, the choice to change from a plasma product to a recombinant product was driven by fear of both known and unknown factors. Whether this fear was really overemphasized because I was a mother, I don't know. What I do know was that this change gave me as a mother a lot of peace of mind. We're fortunate we're on a medical insurance and we can afford to have him on a recombinant factor. This is a choice that the majority of South Africans do not have. So in our situation, this was the best choice with regards to his treatment that I as a mother felt we ever made. No more annual HIV and hepatitis testing for us. And I remember that first year when the time came when we usually had to do the testing, and this year we didn't have to do it. Such a sense of relief that I felt at that time. I felt we now had the chance to give our son a full and active life like we always dreamed of him having. And the last thing, no more fear with regards to exposure to any blood-transmitted diseases. Thank you.